This is Fashion 100, Sewing for Fashion Design 1. This is the sample notebook, sample number 17. This is stay stitching. You have two pieces in the book to cut out. You are going to have to piece the two pattern pieces together. So I have taped them along the side where the fold is, so I've completed a pattern. After I've cut it out, I'm observing the seam allowance on here. You have a 1/2 inch seam allowance around the shoulders and the side seams and the waist, and around the neck we have a 1/4 inch. This is important on this particular sample that you note that. We are not doing the darts on this sample. This is just to practice stay stitching. Removing the patterns, there's my two pieces. We are going to begin by properly stay stitching the center front. Stay stitching is done for support on a garment. So typically it is done 1/8 or 1/16 of an inch less than the actual seam allowance. On my neckline I have a 1/4 inch, so I'm going to be doing slightly less than a 1/4 inch for my stay stitching. I'm going to begin with a regular length stitch, so it's still set on 2.5, up at the top of the shoulder, not at the center. The point of stay stitching is to prevent stretch around the neckline. So we're going to go ahead, be a little bit less than that 1/4 inch. If you are stitching a 5/8 inch neck on a commercial pattern, you would be stitching your stay stitching at a 1/2 inch rather than 5/8. We're going to go ahead, stitch around, being real careful to not stretch the neckline. All the way around to the front. Back stitch. The reason you're back stitching is you don't want the thread shifting on this particular sample. My stay stitching is now complete on my front neckline. I'm going to do my back neckline, and we're going to begin once again at the shoulder seam, stitching toward the front. And once again, the seam allowance for this particular little pattern is at a 1/4 inch, so we're going to be doing it slightly less than a 1/4 of an inch. Here it is, done. Okay, we're going to begin with the armhole. You might want to do this if you have a particularly stretchy fabric or you're doing a sleeveless garment. So the seam allowance on the armhole for this particular pattern is a 1/2 inch. We are going to be stitching the stay stitching at 3/8. So 3/8 is halfway between the 1/4 and the 1/2 inch mark. We're going to begin once again at the shoulder seam and move around the curve. Back stitch at both ends. Pattern is complete. We're going to do the back armscye now. Same thing. We're going to be starting at the shoulder area and moving around into the curve. Do not stretch the fabric as you do this. You will be encouraging that misshapen problem if you do that. All the way around at 3/8. Done. You can do stay stitching on any surface that has stretch. If you have a side seam that's on garment bias, you can go ahead and stay stitch it if it's going to be a problem. That completes this sample. I'm ready to move along now and sew the garment together. This would be your first step. Done.